Ah, there we go. You know, it's a mystery every time this thing starts. I have two screens today for some reason. Hello, everyone. You haven't missed anything. All right. It looks like I won't be able to interact with the chat, but that, I guess, is okay. How's everyone doing on this Friday? I've had a little bit of a long one, but that's all good. We'll get into that a little bit. Transformer stuff keeps coming out. Looks more and more interesting. Feeling like a more day one watcher of the new Transformer movie, believe it or not. Let's see here. Let some people trickle in. Yeah. All right. Well, I got an interesting one today. Those of you that follow me on the social medias would know. But welcome to Friday Night Toy Armada Live, where we talk toy industry and toy processes of gone by eras, and a lot of Transformers talk, as I was a Transformers designer and lead for 13 years. So I'm Aaron Archer. Welcome to the show, or as I like to call the Metroplex. How you guys doing? Matt, Claudio, Coltron, Ninjatron, El Kevo, Titus, Princeton Phalanx 59, thanks for being here. Joe, got a good crew. We got a few things to cover. I'm going to tell some old stories about some friends, and then we can just talk whatever. Might be a little strange for me. I try to be somewhat open, but yet private at the same time. I could easily get a little emotional tonight, so bear with me as I talk about friends that I've lost. So we'll get into that. So it was that kind of week, though. So yeah, the found out Sunday that a toy designer. Let's see here. There we go. It's a scan of a scan of a scan, so it's a little not the best. Let's see. But yeah, a guy named Mark Boudreau passed away, who had been with Kenner Hasbro for over 43 years, if you can believe that. And he was a co-op back in the day when the first videotape of Star Wars showed up at Kenner. He was in the room the first time that got played, and I think it really altered his destiny for sure, because he was connected to Star Wars until he retired a few years ago. So unfortunately we lost him. So I'm going to tell some stories about this guy, and just in general that old Kenner crew that unfortunately aren't really with us as readily as they were, and it's only been a few years. So Mark, great guy, went down to his funeral in Cincinnati today. A lot of good people meeting up with a lot of old friends and familiar faces. That was nice. Very nice things were said about a very nice man, but figured I'd tell my stories a little bit. And often when I'm on this podcast or talking on the long form Toy Armada podcasts, I talk about how I was an illustrator and a comic book artist and kind of a all-around creative person, but not a toy designer, not an industrial designer by trade anywhere near that. So, and I often make kind of this quip, I learned it on the job. I learned how to be an industrial designer on the job. Well, to be fair, I was never truly an industrial designer. I learned the vernacular of Kenner and the documents and how those worked and what was needed. And through gentlemen that I'm going to talk about, became functioning, became a designer that knew more than some of the if you were just a comic guy or something. So when I say that I had to learn it on the job, people would tell me to go talk to Mark. So Mark was on Star Wars at that time, re-releasing in '97, and prior to that even, he was doing Gargoyles and some different things. And we did Star Wars in pre-prep for a while. Star Wars was kind of in the building up into what became the re-releases and things. We did that little, what was that, kind of everything but the movie kind of project. Shadows of the Empire, we were doing stuff like that. So I would go down and talk to this guy who I didn't really know that well. But everyone said, oh, go talk to Mark. And so I started to, because I needed information. I did not know how to do this job at the level that you would think people would have to do. So I took people's advice. I sought out information. I spent a lot of early in my days like a sponge during the day and trying to execute my work at night. So that I could make mistakes and no one would see, and I'd have it ready the next morning kind of thing. But I spent the day just absorbing how the process worked. So Mark was the type of guy who, if you asked him a question, he would give you an answer. And if you asked a technical question or a detail-oriented question, you were talking to a detail-oriented perfectionist who never did anything as a shortcut or shorthand. So his answers, full of good information, full of all the things I needed to know, but took 20 minutes, 40 minutes, sometimes in the middle of the day, or towards the end of the day, and he would give me the full answer. He'd give everybody the full answer, to be honest. It wasn't something special with me. And so, yeah, bear with me, folks. I know people coming in. I'm talking about some classic old designers. I went to a funeral this week, but not that one, of a good friend. So I'm going to put this up right now. Is that what's coming through the screen? I don't know which one of my feeds is coming through. Sorry. I'm having a technical glitch with my my what have you here. Coming through. Oops. Sorry. So are these pictures not coming up? Well, that's fouled up. There we go. Jeez, ow. All right. So this is Mark and I. So I figured that out. I apologize, the technical issue here. For some reason I have two screens going today. So Mark would give these long answers, and I'm 22 years old. Hey Larry. Hey Matt. Hey David. I'm 22 years old, 23 years old, and definitely needed to learn stuff. And this guy was spending a lot of time, different times during different weeks or months, giving me information. And he had a wife at home. He had his own projects that he executed at the highest level possible. Highest level possible. Works of art, every one of his technical drawings, models, all of them. nothing slapdashed with Mark. So it really dawns on me now how much he gave of himself for all of us to learn to a good standard, learn at a level that made sense, for the technical information to get out there. Oh boy, here we go. So it just dawns on me how impressionable I was and how I needed that. And I'm not even sure a lot of my friends that I worked with knew how much I had gone and got his counsel. He was on a wholly different floor, working on totally different brands, and I didn't have any connection to him outside of, I think, the guy who brought me into the company, Wayne Losey, vouched for me, and so Mark respected Wayne enough to give me the benefit of the doubt, because I know for a fact, he did not give everyone the benefit of the doubt if they didn't want to learn, and if they didn't want to do it right, and if they wanted to be knuckleheads and fool around and whatnot. He didn't just let people slide either, or he didn't want to be around those kind of people, is how I should say it. So for him to spend time and give time, I realize, it was very instrumental in what I was able to achieve, which, is what you try to do. Here we go. I'm almost going to figure this tech out. So this is Mark on the right, and a guy named Ham Woodhouse in the center. And I gotta tell you, with the hat, and I gotta tell you, if the public at large knew how many toys these two guys made that you all love or value the memory of or the visual of, it would be every bit as long as Frank Welker's IMDb. These guys did Superpowers, Ghostbusters, Chuck Norris, Megaforce, Batman, Jurassic Park, Star Wars, Matchbox, just an unbelievable amount of the 80s, 90s products that people fondly recall and collect now. I guess we lost Ham about 5 years ago. My first toy, Light Wing Batman, was actually a Ham toy because he built models. And these two guys had an interesting orbit with each other because they both did very good work, and they both had their own points of view, not in contrast, but just in execution. Ham liked to glue up models and see what could be invented, and they didn't always look as interesting as they would ultimately end up, but they definitely worked really well. And Mark was very precision-based model. Like, if you saw the models that Mark made to present, that's what the toy ended up looking like. Whereas Ham was happy to let me draw some of his stuff. And that's how I got a lot of early Batman in, because this guy built a bunch of models, and then I would help him with his inputs and whatnot. So I don't want to talk too much out of turn, but over the last decades of their time here on Earth, these gentlemen had other health issues, and it was a struggle to watch, and unfortunate that they didn't get the retirement they deserved, for sure. It's hard exactly to know what to say, but I know I got a lot of friends here and fans and whatnot, but behind all this stuff are real people who have families and really worked a whole career for the enjoyment, of other people by making cool plastic stuff that we all cherish and love. And they really, so if you value the Transformers the feature-based Transformers that I learned from the Kenner guys, that the Unicron trilogy was largely based on, then you're really honoring these gentlemen as well. And I'm happy to have them, ride a little on any success I had, because they were a significant part of it. Let's see here. Let me try this again. There we go. So that's me today, doing my best to pull it together and or do my Confederate general impression, I guess. And I also don't talk about it too much, but the toy hunter Jordan was there. He and I have a relationship, just to answer questions and share some things. He has sent me a few things. He sent me a model that he had procured from Ham and sent that my way, and I appreciated that. One other thing, I have a Polaroid camera that all the designers who did their file photography back in the 80s used, and so that's kind of cool. It's got like the regulations, like how you're supposed to take the picture, kind of taped to the back of it, which is pretty cool. So I really, one other thing. So I was talking about these guys being sick, and if I have these guys and add a few other guys that I worked with early days, they came through the 70s and 80s processes and materials of their era. Rubber cement, no air hoods, stinky markers, ventilation wasn't a concept, no regulation really on any of the stuff, spray mount or the fumes. We used Bestine to clean off the boards, to maybe use them again and things, move things around after you spray mounted them down. The model glue that we used and what we called kicker to activate it, to harden it quick, it's all carcinogenic, causes cancer, and it goes right through your pores. And again, I'm no doctor. I can't pretend to know anything, but I watched several far too young gentlemen have incredibly odd and devastating cancers. And, we cut foam, hogged it out, insulation foam, different qualities of that, the fumes of various waxes, and cutting that foam with a hot wire in small spaces. it couldn't have been good on, the body at all. And it's a real shame. I think I was fortunate to have been in an era of regulations and, less of that stuff. We were forced to use the air hoods, and toxic things were less and less. At least that's what they say. So I haven't had my generation hasn't had quite the same predicament. But, I got a list of 7, 8 guys that just gone far too early, and I'll celebrate them sometime as well. But having, just gone down to Cincinnati today, which was kind of nice to get back into the area, but I didn't really get to. That wasn't anywhere near the city. But it felt like a good thing to do. My friends that were in Rhode Island couldn't make it, so I represented my crew. And I don't know what else I can kind of get into there. Let's see. There we go. So I've been reading this stuff. Let me see. How's everybody doing? Yeah, these are amazing men. Definitely legends. Definitely legends. Hold on. All right. So, I'm a little teary-eyed, I'm sure. Bear with me. Yeah. I mean, it was a very hands-on. When I started at Kenner, I was drawing my boards. I was drawing my Pirate Jokers and Raja Ghuls and stuff. And there was a point early on, within the first 6 months, even the marketing team leader was like, okay, Aaron, you need to make some models for your next stuff. You could still draw and get people impressed, but Kenner was a model-based, I'll believe it when I see it, kind of engineering-driven attitude. So models were really important because toys are the toys, right? So models represented what the toy was actually going to be. A drawing, you've seen all the pre-production He-Man and Star Wars and Transformers and Turtles. It doesn't always look like the final toy. There's a lot of style and personal preference in there. And then when it comes out as a toy, it could be a totally different vibe. So there was a lot of model making going on, and as a result, just an abundance of all those tools of the trade, which were just toxic. And again, I'm not a doctor. I can't speak to, any of that really, but I find it sad and strange, right? That's that. It was nice to see some old faces and friends and all that again. Jordan had some nice things to say, and everyone that spoke. There was a big Kenner Hasbro signed thing from the people of Rhode Island that had sent, and I'm pretty sure there was a big flower piece sent from Lucasfilm. I didn't double check that, but the impression that it gave was that. And if it wasn't that, it was Hasbro. I drove down there last night and drove back this afternoon. So it's been a whirlwind 24 hours. For those of you who ask what Daniel eats. I did get my White Castle when I went to Cincinnati, so I'm not sure Daniel eats White Castle, but I was happy to get it. If I'm going to drive 4 hours, I'm going to get my dose of the things I miss from the area. Yeah, funerals, they can bring out the best and at the worst time, and just goes to show that you got to take advantage of the time you have with the friends you have when you can have that time and fun, whether that's at a convention for 2 days. And I saw a guy today that I never worked with directly on a team. We had some crossover here and there, and certainly other similar friends and whatnot, and partners at Kenner. And I saw him towards the end, and I just said, hey, I don't know when our paths will cross again, but thank you, and he's of that generation that he's watched all his compatriots. They're all gone, for a large part. I've had some mentors go, which is tough, but they weren't my foxhole mates like him. So I felt bad for him today. But yeah, dinner at TFCon sounds good. So I also want to say that because I go to those conventions and I hang out and everything. I value the friendships. I value the interaction. I value your guys' commitment and knowledge about these obscure things that happen in this corporate office and, for big business, and you guys, you really care. And so I care in return. And that's largely, to be honest, why I interact with the Transformer people more than anything else. You're all a good bunch, and I'm happy to help complete any of the stories that need completed. So yeah, White Castle's a weird one. I used to live down the street from one in Cincinnati. It is an acquired taste somewhat, but when I was a child, my grandmother, my father's mother, so she was in her 80s and 90s, she got them frozen, and she'd cook them at home for us, and that was kind of a grandma thing. So I think I have a sentimental thing about White Castle because of grandma, any more than the taste. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, TFCon Toronto. Let's all hang. I was thinking about stopping at Skyline when I was driving home, but I had my suit on and everything, and that stuff splatters, and especially the way I eat it, and I had a nice white shirt on, so I didn't go for the Skyline, and I have one a couple towns north that the family and I get to go to. So yeah, I could skip the Skyline and hit the White Castle. Plus I'm an Ohio guy. I think it started in Ohio, if I'm not mistaken, around Columbus or something. So yeah, so it may be a very regional weird thing, I thought I'd. So anyway, okay, we're a half hour in. You're watching the Toy Armada live with Aaron Archer. Kind of a bittersweet night. Sorry for the downer on kicking off the weekend. But the whole point of this podcast, both the long form and the live, is to share information that otherwise doesn't get out there or isn't readily available, so that again the story can be complete. So I'm happy to talk about this stuff today. I know it's not our normal fare, but I think you guys can appreciate the concept of whichever of these brands we all like. There's people behind them, and I'm happy to share some of their funny stories. Mark, when we moved to Rhode Island, Mark's family stayed back in Cincinnati for a little while they were building a house. And so for a while there, we were inviting Mark to all our little events. My friend Vicky had some younger kids, so like, his 10th birthday party, he'd show up, one of the kids would get nothing but Dragon Ball Z stuff, and we'd be in the kitchen, hanging out and stuff. So we got to spend some quality time. I think we took him out on I don't know what it was, a Valentine's Day dinner with us or something. So we got when we moved to Rhode Island, the dynamic shifted too. In Cincinnati, he was Mr. Cincinnati. He had Cincinnati Bengals tickets. He went to the University of Cincinnati. He went to Muller High School, which is a big Catholic school there. And when we moved to Rhode Island, he was a fish out of water like the rest of us. And as a result, we were all in it together, and we hung out in totally different ways. And that's really when I got to know Mark. So the first 6 years was, Sensei Mark while Star Wars was going on. And then obviously when I went to Star Wars Episode 1, I had to represent his work when I'd go out and get things approved. We that's how we really got to be friends, and kind of a bigger part of our crew was after we moved to Rhode Island. Cool to get to hang around with one of the OGs. It was always very impressive that he'd come out to dinner with us and stuff. Very humble man. It wasn't anything on him. It was just we were in awe of him. So, so that was cool. Yeah, time is all we have, people. Use it. I'm going to try to take the vibe I got today and of this hardworking, dedicated, no shortcut kind of guy. And I'm like, I got a couple projects I need to finish. I need to really get done. Like, what am I wasting my time on? And so you'll hear more about that soon, hopefully. But, that's what I got out of it. A little more kick in the pants. So let's see here. All right. Yeah. So. All right. So, we can talk about anything. Let me transition a little bit. A couple weeks ago, I found the sweet score of Lightyear ships for $3, down from $12.97. So $10 off. Not bad at all. And I finally got around to detailing the hell out of the ship. Kind of tough to figure out how to show that. I didn't take photos. But I went in and Gundam'd it up, as I like to think. Really went crazy with it. Scribe lined everything, gave it a wipe, silver wipe, black wipe, went into some more of the engine detail with the, the orange and yellow back there. So, finally got that done. Makes that $10 or $3 purchase look really nice. So I told you guys I would show that whenever I got around to it. That's been a few weeks. So that was... And then I was crashing on a freelance project all week, so I didn't really post any new art or even really draw anything for myself, which is really odd, but I was really up on it. On my Instagram, ArcherMonster_creative, I got 700 new, followers in since February 1st, which is really good. And I been reworking that image a little bit that I posted when I hit 3,000. Now another 700 has shown up. So, it's all that's about all I got done this week. And I can't show the other crazy stuff I worked on. Do you have a P.O. box where we can send you a Legacy Tigerhawk when it comes out? I don't know if I'm the father of Tigerhawk as much. Definitely the Red Dragon. I forget. I think a guy named Tim Bradley that I've been talking to did the Tigerhawk. I don't have a P.O. box. What I am looking for, if anybody ever got a deal and has an extra one, I'm looking for an Armada Starscream Legacy. I can still get Hot Shot, but I can't find the Starscream anymore. And I saw Override on sale one day, but it wasn't a toy buying day, and I didn't get that one either. So I'm a little bit behind on some of my designs. So if anybody has those for sale or has an extra one, we can talk, trade, whatever. I ordered the Legacy Prime and Megatron already. Yeah. So I'll be talking about them when they come out. I've talked to Mark a little bit, not too much, but just telling him how cool I think that is that they've been able to pull that off. Yeah. So, I just talked to Tim Bradley. We're gonna have a little. I didn't remember when he came in exactly. So I was hoping he had done more Beast Wars stuff, but he did Fuzors and the other Transmetal 2s that I didn't do, and he put color to them. And he did Animorphs. So we talked a lot about that. So that is going to be on a future Toy Armada where we can get him to bring some stories in. He's kind of a shy guy, so we're gonna figure out how to get that going. But yeah, I talked to another guy today that was there in the early days. I'm going to get some answers from him as well. He wasn't sure he wanted to do a podcast, and I understand that. But he was going to try to answer some of the early Beast Wars transition questions, because he was a guy that had been in Rhode Island when that started. So, that's coming. If Hasbro asked you to come on for a reveal stream, would you? Oh, I probably would. I left Hasbro just let's just call it what it was. Just complete and utter, just too much work. I needed a break. I was at a breaking point. Been doing it at a high level for a long time, as you all with the Transformers know. And it was just I needed a mental break. So my exit from Hasbro wasn't entirely tumult, although, there were definitely, I didn't like some of the management things that were on their way. But I have I've never been a has-been or a has-hater or any of that stuff. It gave me a lot, so I'm not going to be a hater. So yeah, I'd participate on things they'd bring to me if they needed me, but they don't need to look backwards, really. They don't need to carry the old guys forward. They got their own people they're pushing. Okay. Yeah, I saw Starscream for a while, and then all of a sudden gone. I got a local kind of mom and pop toy store locally, and he carries a good range. He still has Hot Shot, but he never got Override. I don't think he must have bought the Velocitron assortments. What was the other one? I saw something else there that I liked, but haven't got yet. Speaking of Red Dragon, Rye Cryotech. I don't know. I don't know how they executed Cryotech and why and what the whatnot. Unfortunately, because Cryotech originally was an exclusive, right? And that's why it's fairly rare, I believe. So sometimes exclusives kind of just get made to get made. They're not always part of the greater IP building at certain times. I certainly tried to make everything kind of fit if I could, but it doesn't always. Correct me if I'm wrong, but no Transformers fiction was ever taking place in Cincinnati or Rhode Island. Yeah, that might be true. That might be true. Yeah, Cybertron Metroplex. Yeah, I definitely wasn't. I'm not in a position to. That's an Eric design as much as I love it. That's a big ticket item, and I still got young kids, so. Oh yeah, Andrew Frankel might have worked on that one. You're right. You're absolutely right. I'm still in contact with him. I can ask him that question. Matt, you're got a lot of talents, Matt. Yeah, but Metroplex is one of those. If I'm gonna spend that kind of money, I'm gonna probably buy something else, not a toy that looks like a toy that we made back. Because I love it, but you know what I mean. I want a new cool Lego set, or I want my original Metroplex back. Oh yeah, Metroplex 95. I had one in my office that was always on a top shelf, and it was the one package that ever got, and I had the Japanese package. Obviously, we never put it out, but it faded on one side pretty significantly. Is it true Animorphs took budget away from Beast Wars? Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. That came in very opportunistic with Scholastic. It got assigned to the Transformers team, and I'm sure they took SKUs, so item count and budget, away from Beast Wars. They might have added a little, but they took as well, if you know what I mean, to execute that segment. Yeah, because it was the same team, of design and engineer, and so they couldn't add more to their list. So I'm sure they transitioned Beast Wars items into Animorph items. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Somebody's been reading the backs of the package. The only thing I ever had from back in the day, when I was doing the Transformers and whatnot, you guys would see me at cons. I managed to find a G1 Scorponok in a box with the styrofoam and everything, and Rick was able to help me find a few of the pieces that were missing, and it was complete. It was pretty cool to have a complete Scorponok for a while. I ended up getting rid of it. When I moved so many times, all those old boxes, I just couldn't bear to have them get rattled around, and where I was going didn't have a place for them anyway, so it was just easier to transition that into other stuff. But that was the biggest G1 item I ever had in package, to have to deal with that old cardboard. And yeah, I worked on, when you say worked on the 2001 RID Transformers Megatron, I picked colors a little bit. Did we transition colors on that one? Either of them? Because there was a redeco. Here's something that we also don't talk about. In the Unicron trilogy, there's Megatron, and then every series he transitions into Galvatron. I only started that because of RID. They had the Megatron, it was black and purple and whatever, and then they came out with kind of the white one. So I don't know about the antlers. But I didn't have anything to do with the design of those at all. No, I may have transitioned some colors and things like that, but I think largely that one I left alone. I didn't do anything on the trains. I obviously monkeyed around with the Devastator, picking the tank colors and things that were a little different. We did a lot of the little GoBots or spy changers and changed and altered some of that. The Automorph kind of Transformers, the little F1 car, Skid Z, and the tow truck. I think I left the tow truck alone, but I obviously messed around with the race car. We added items like the three-headed dog and the unicorn and things like that. And the Constructicons. I don't think I altered colors on those. Didn't mess with Optimus and Megatron. I had to do the voices and the sound chips for Optimus. So what used to, say Super Power, Super Power Convoy. That changed. Yeah, Legos have gone up in price, no doubt. It's almost a value shift now. It's like I look at them and I'm like, I don't want to pay that for that anymore. So I've actually had to reconsider some sets, but we can talk Lego on a different day. Fortunately, my son likes the city sets, so they're not marked up, and you get a lot more bricks because of the licenses. But even those sets are a little high. Yeah, I think I added details in some places. The tow truck tow line is getting a new toy. That's funny. What cracks me up about the tow truck from RAD is when you, I don't know if you guys remember, but look it up. It's the same colors as the Mystery Machine. And if I've seen pictures where people have put little Mystery Machine cars on the back of the tow truck. I don't know if that was intentional because those were Takara colors, which is funny. Yeah. Super Fire Convoy. One of my favorite sound effects ever. No, I was not the voice of those sound chips. No. The guy who does the narration of our long forms, the Toy Armada with Aaron Archer. Yeah. Same guy. A guy named Rick Sellers. I think if you look in the information tab on the YouTube, you will see a link to his stuff. He does the General, or used to do the General commercials, and does a ton of voices and things for Hasbro. He's a big voiceover guy and does voice chips and things for Hasbro a lot, and commercials and things. So Ricky Sellers, good guy. I've known him since I was a kid through Rob Krause, who does the Shakon, the Forever Man comic book that I started in college working with. So I go back with some of these guys, pre-Kenner and Hasbro, and still working with them today. So yeah, the guy who does my narration is the General. Yeah, little. That is kind of funny. I never thought to point that out. When you go back and draw older characters you design, do you need to use reference or does it come natural? I go back a little bit just to make sure I'm not missing any iconic things, because I'll tell you what made me excel on Transformers is I like to draw different things all the time. And so I was happy to kind of keep altering little details. So I will revision characters that I've already designed. Actually, I got one right here. This will be fun. Sorry for a crotch shot. All right, so got two things here. That is, let me put it on the other side of my microphone. I've had this problem before. All right, so that is something I did back in the day. Not to actually make a toy of it. It was probably post-Armada, pre-Energon. But I was looking for silhouettes. I often talk about silhouettes, and I was trying to figure out the new Megatron silhouette. Didn't know what he was even going to be. But that is that. But sometimes, if left to my own devices, I will re-envision my own stuff. So, if you haven't seen this one, so this would be a, can't see it here, a reinterpretation of Armada Megatron. My big antlers. So this is a full sheet, 20 something by whatever, full page of Bristol board. So that's, so you asked the question. So I know the details because they're my details. They're the way I draw in general. So I'm able to flow back into it pretty easily, especially over the last year or so. I've really embraced all the new fans and things I've been seeing at shows that grew up with Armada and the Unicron trilogy. So I've reconnected with all those characters a little bit and tried to, I draw them more often, so I'm getting better at them anyway. But yeah, the lines of those characters, the silhouettes of the characters come very naturally. Long dumb answer, but sorry. Yeah, the original Red Dragon, that was my very first item to touch and work on, and wow, who knew? I wouldn't have known it would become the kind of marker in the line that it has become. Do you know that apparently Ape-Link is going to be... Yeah, I heard that. I get to this point in the movie hype often when it's about a month out where I kind of stop watching the trailers. And I kind of want to forget some stuff so that when I go in to see any of these movies, I can be surprised. I like to be surprised. I'm not a fellow that tries to figure out who did it or whatever while I'm watching it. I just go for the ride and enjoy it for that, and then I'll dissect it after the fact. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with that whole Ape-Link thing. Yeah, the horns do make him look like a beetle. He's very insecty. Yeah, that was a fair amount of ink. Nice and shiny. Look at that. That image will be in the new sketchbook. I did about 3 of those. I did a Super Optimus, a Starscream, Armada Starscream, Armada Super Optimus, and that. And Josh said he'd color them up for me, but they're so big I haven't been able to photograph them or scan them to get that going yet. But those will be in the new sketchbook as well this summer. Yeah. Sometimes those ads, they gotta hype you up, but if you're already hyped, you want to back off. Like, you're only going to spoil various things or let your mind go off and get excited about something. Like, I got really excited about different theories on Game of Thrones or Avengers or whatever, and when it doesn't happen or not even close, you're like, oh. So I try not to spend pre-thought into what's going to happen. It is kind of Megatron doing a shrapnel cosplay. That's funny. So those of us that are going to go see those movies, you probably do want to back off, and go for the ride. Otherwise, I think the narrative gets lost. We're not enjoying them for that. Wow, it's already 11. So you're watching the Toy Armada live. Got the crew here tonight. Started it with a little bit of a downer, but kind of sharing the good stories there, though. Don't know if I missed anything early. I think y'all were patiently letting me tell my story, and I appreciate that. No, I didn't work on that one. Have I seen Plastic Galaxy? No, but Mark got to be in that, right? Or seemingly would be. Yeah, Claudio, that opens up a whole topic. And I'll reframe your question to give you a broader view for everybody. There was a tradition of, things have changed. There used to be a robust publishing industry, right? And part of that is people like to read. People wanted to read the novel of the movies. People wanted to read the comic book of the movies and different things. But over time, as the movies and the directors became more excited about their reveals and the secrets of the reveals, having those novels out, they saw as spilling the beans. And if I'm perfectly honest, I think it was also one of the things why it went away is the final scripts for the movies just weren't done in any time frame for a writer to coalesce a novel from the script in time to print it, to get out prior to the movie, which is important. So it just kind of withered away. And then when you don't have that access to pre-material, or you don't quite know what this final script's going to be, you can't work around with like the IDW stuff where we're adding side stories, because we could be certainly colliding into what happens in the film. So that became an issue. I don't know if Michael Bay changed anything, but I know he was always very concerned that stuff was out there, and he just didn't provide the data to keep it going as we went on future movies. Definitely before your time at Kenner. But what did you think of the Swamp Thing toys? Some of that stuff was still around. The guys who sculpted the Swamp Thing toys were the guys who sculpted the Batman toys. So, that stuff was still floating around. Bill and Ted, I think, Beetlejuice. There were some weird lines. Swamp Thing, certainly. In that kind of a certain weird period of Kenner there. So I didn't see a lot of it, and like I talked about the glow in the dark thing, Swamp Thing had some glow in the dark. So Swamp Thing was not often talked about, but I enjoyed it. Peter David tells a funny story about writing the novelization of Swamp Thing movie. Yeah, a lot of times you just don't know. It's a struggle. It's a struggle when the scripts aren't done. And all those things. So, all right, we're at 11. I'm going to call it a night. We'll have some more fun stuff next week, and I appreciate everybody hearing the stories about Mark and Ham, or just letting me vent a little bit or talk about them a little bit. I'm not even sure I did a great job of telling their stories, but what they meant to me. Police Academy toys, yeah. So we'll get back into other history of toys this coming Friday. And I appreciate all being here. And I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you. Check out archermonster.com. Like and subscribe, all that.